Hey, so yeah, I got a little bit of a eggnog here to help me get through this five recommended, if not five rewatchable or recommended watchable movies for Christmas, if you will. Of course, I did the five the five most rewatched or the five must watch or rewatched Christmas specials that you should be seeing, or I would recommend you try seeing every Christmas. So I figured, why not kind of do the same for movies? The five must watched or Christmas movies for the Christmas season, basically. The kind that you could watch once and maybe twice during the holiday season. Now, just like with the previous list, this is just my opinion. Some of it you may agree with, some of it you may not. But again, to me, these are the five must watch Christmas movies to watch during the holiday season, the Christmas season, and possibly rewatch as well. Even if it's not Christmas, you want to put them on, get kind of in that Christmassy mood. These are the kind of movies that will help you do so. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the five. So, starting off, this is a classic that was remade on television back in the 50s and remade theatrically back in the 90s. This is considered a all-time Christmas classic, and the man that played Santa Claus won an Academy Award for it as well. And that is the original classic Miracle on 34th Street, starring a young Natalie Wood as well. So you get a young Natalie Wood in there um, in the role that would actually be portrayed by Maya Wilson in the remake during the 1990s. And the person that played Santa, I think, let me see if I get this correct. Let's see, you got, let me make sure. Edmund Edmund Gwynn. Edmund Gwynn, who won an Academy Award for his portrayal as Santa. And basically, this movie with Edmund's portrayal basically gave us what the definitive Santa, would look like in modern times. In other words, you see this and you instantly believe, he's Santa. Now, the other actor that portrayed the same role in the 1990s remake did a decent job as well. And matter of fact, Edmund Wynn and then the individual that portrayed it later on, the 1991 or the 1990s remake, basically according to Doug Walker during his Nostalgia Critic countdown of the top 12 Santas, basically were very believable in this role. Basically, you watch these two movies, or these two versions, the original and the 90s remake, and basically you look at the actors and you'll be like, yeah, that's Santa, no matter how you try to say it's not. It's Santa. There's no doubt about it. And of course, that's the Blu-ray and everything. And I think they did put it out on 4K as well. And if you have Disney Plus, it's on Disney Plus as well, as last I checked. But yeah, Milk on 34th Street, the original, in my opinion, is the one you must watch during the holiday season and rewatch when you ever get a chance during Christmas, or even if you want to get in that Christmas mood during like the summer or the spring or whatever. It's one of those films. So I really recommend checking this one out as one of the most watched, if not the must watch Christmas movie. During the Christmas season, and that also could require a rewatch as well. So we're starting off here with Miracle on 34th Street, the original, as a must watch during the Christmas season. Next up, the fourth must-watch Christmas movie, in my opinion, that you have to watch during the Christmas season, no matter how you look at it, is the classic, the 1990 classic that put Macaulay Culkin on the map, Home Alone. Now, yes, there's also Home Alone 2 in here. This is the two-pack that, 20th Century Fox released before it was bought up by Disney, and thus Home Alone became part of the Disney family, basically became a Disney movie. But yeah, Home Alone is definitely one that I think definitely has to be a must-watch during the holiday season. Because again, yes, it's known for putting Macaulay Culkin on the map, but it's also known for the fact that it's one of those movies that when you think about Christmas movies during the Christmas season, it's one of those that's at the top of everybody's list as a must-watch with the family. It's something that even if you find out it's broadcasting on TV multiple times, like with Freeform or even Disney Channel or ABC or whatever, it's one of those movies that you want to try to at least watch when it airs, with your family during that during the season. So like, let's say if it airs on Freeform tonight, you want to get your family together and watch it on Freeform. Yeah, but Home Alone definitely is a must-watch. Again, it is known, like I said, for putting Macaulay Culkin on the map. But again, it's one of those movies that if you take out, putting Macaulay on the map, it's one of those movies that you cannot think of Christmas about, or you cannot think about Christmas movies about, and consider watching during the holiday season, Christmas season, if you will, without this being on the top of the list. So, in my opinion, Macaulay Culkin, yes, got put on the map because of this, but if you take that aside, Home Alone, definitely one of the Christmas movies that's a must-watch during the holiday season, especially if you want to get a good laugh, during this time of year to kind of get you in that Christmas spirit, if you know what I mean, especially, towards the climax of the movie, or in the climax of the movie and stuff like that. So, the fourth choice, in my opinion, for the must-watch list is Home Alone. Something that has to be seen, during the Christmas season, and if you get a chance to rewatch it, to also, kind of take that opportunity to do so as well. So yeah, Home Alone, definitely on the list. So, at number 3, and this is kind of be a shocker for even me, but I know some people might say, well, why would you consider it the top one? In reality, I consider it like maybe number 3, especially from an animated perspective. And we're talking Yogi's First Christmas. And to be honest with you, Yogi's First Christmas, in my opinion, is a must watch because, when you ever get a chance, if you have Boomerang, if you have the channel Boomerang, or you have the streaming service of Boomerang, I highly recommend watching this because this is one of those rare Christmas animated films that doesn't get that much attention. I mean, basically, this year, it's 40 years old. It is celebrating this Christmas season its 40th anniversary, and that's surprising. So yeah, the Christmas film definitely of Yogi Bear has to be seen as a must watch. There was a follow up called Christmas Caper. It's basically a 45-minute special that aired like several years later. And I guess the people at Warner Brothers kind of mixed up the titles or mixed up the, which each Christmas special movie was about. Because this is actually based around the Christmas Caper, not First Christmas. First Christmas is actually like that right there. So, this right here in the center. So, let me make sure you can see that. But yeah, that right there, while I'm pointing, that's what First Christmas is based on, not the front cover. That's from Christmas Caper. They kind of got it mixed up. But yeah, to me, especially with it being its 40th anniversary since, it debuted in 1980, and I was 1 year old when it debuted, Yogi's First Christmas is great because it brings everybody together. Brings everybody, no, excuse me, they're known to be associated with Yogi Bear. It brings them all together once again under one roof, if you will. Yes, it even brings in Cindy. You know, she's voiced by she's not voiced by Julie Bennett. No, she's actually voiced by Janet Waldo in this movie. Excuse me there. She's actually voiced by Janet Waldo, the original voice of Judy Jetson. She's voicing Cindy here as well as her singing voice. And I think it's because Julie Bennett might have been busy at the time or something was going on. So they just said, you know what, who can we get that sounds similar in tone? And that's when they probably figured, you know what, let's bring in Janet Waldo. Maybe, and I'm sure they cleared it with Julie Bennett, and Julie was like, hey, no problem, bring her in. You know, let her do it. So yeah, Janet Waldo actually voices Cindy in this movie. But it's one of those that you have to really check out, and you really have to check out and watch. It's a must-watch during the Christmas season. Like I said, now that it's also celebrating 40 years since it debuted, so it is a high recommendation in my opinion. It's a must-watch and a must-rewatch in my opinion, because the storyline is great. Basically, long story short, if you have not seen it, and who hasn't, Yogi and Boo Boo are hibernating. But ironically, what are hibernating is literally underneath the Jellystone Lodge, where Yogi's friends are staying for the season. You know, they go there every year, stay there every year for Christmas, and it just happens to be just above where Yogi and Boo Boo are hibernating, and this, of course, wakes them up. And of course, Yogi being Yogi, curiosity gets the best of him, and he wants to go check it out. He wants to see what's going on. So he ends up going to check out what's happening. Finds out that it's Christmas, and decides, you know what? I've never been awake for Christmas. I'm always missing it. So I'm going to try to stay awake for this one. And basically, shenanigans, hilarity at times, plays through after that. You have Ranger Smith trying his best to get Yogi to go back to his cave. You got the owner of the lodge taking a liking to Yogi, even to the point that she's promoting Yogi to all these different positions and all that. So it's just like one hilarious, what's the word I'm looking for? One hilarious moment after the other. That's what I'm trying to say. One hilarious moment after the other. It's got songs in it, of course. Being a Yogi Bear film, it's got songs, especially Christmas songs. It's very noticeable for having that one song by Cindy, which really just... Everybody that's seen a clip of that is like, holy crap, how did they get away with this? But anyway, Yogi's First Christmas, again, like I said, is definitely a must-watch during the Christmas season, no matter what. And even if it's not the Christmas season, it's a must-watch, in my opinion. So, at number 3, Yogi's First Christmas, especially with its 40th anniversary this year, is a must-watch. Alright, so at number 2 is probably one of the funniest Christmas movies that has to be rewatched every year. AMC has been always replaying it. Freeform replays it. Of course, I'm talking about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which I believe, out of all the National Lampoon's movies, is probably the most iconic. I mean, you had the first one, you had European, you had Vegas, and of course you had the made-for-television sequel to this. But to me, this is the definitive National Lampoon's movie, and ironically, it's a Christmas one. So you combine all that together, into one movie and into one scenario, and you got yourself a hilarious movie that you could watch time and time again. I mean, just the performances by everybody there is great. I mean, when you watch it, it makes you, laugh, and it makes you think about, what's going on sometimes with the characters. Like, when Clark's cousin-in-law shows up out of nowhere, there's people like my mom and some of my family members were like, in agreement of like, yeah, when Eddie, the cousin-in-law of Clark, shows up with his cousin Catherine and their kids just out of the blue, with the RV and everything. It's like, you know, could they have at least called? Like Catherine even suggested or even mentioned that she wanted to suggest to Eddie for them to call ahead so they know they're coming, but Eddie wanted to make it a surprise, and basically that's his character. His character is basically described as by some people in this movie, in the ones that come before it, and even the ones that follow. He's looked at as a freeloader, basically someone that just wants to live off somebody else's hard work and not give a dime back or whatever. It's also portrayed. It's also kind of hinted at, if not kind of hinted at or acknowledged, that he doesn't believe in Santa, so he doesn't want his kids believing in Santa. But there is a part of him that still believes in him, but it's more along the lines of it's an iffy, like, does he exist? Are you telling the truth about this guy kind of deal? He doesn't want obviously his kids to be disappointed if one day they find out the truth of, yeah, there is no no Santa. So he basically is trying to get his kids like off that bandwagon, trying at times to make Santa sound bad, or try to at least get them to realize, hey, there is no such thing. But again, you have Clark, you got Helen, and they're like, we can't let this happen, even if they did come out of nowhere without letting us know. We can't let these kids, have a bad Christmas. We can't let the belief in Santa go away. So that becomes a plot point in the film, stuff like that. But overall, it's National Lampoon's. It's Christmas. You can't ask for anything more than that. So, in my opinion, the second must watch movie for Christmas during the Christmas season, in my opinion, is indeed Christmas Vacation. You cannot go wrong with this whatsoever. You cannot. Okay, so we have a tie at number one. Now, I physically don't have the Blu-ray with me, but I'll try to provide a picture above so you guys can see it right next to me somewhere here on the screen. But it's a tie between two movies that people consider definitive must-watches during the holiday season, during the Christmas season, no matter what. And of course, talking about Christmas Vacation, not Christmas, but A Christmas Story, I should say, being one of them, and the other being It's a Wonderful Life. And when you look at Christmas Story, let's start off with that. Christmas Story, what can you say about it? It's basically a movie that kind of gives you an idea. Basically, takes you on the journey through the perspective of a kid who wants a certain gift. In this case, it's a Red Ryder BB gun. But his mom and anybody else that hears that he wants this is against it. Even the guy that plays the grumpy Santa in the mall is like, "Are you crazy, kid? You'll shoot your eye out." So it's one of those scenarios to where it's like, this kid wants this gift so badly that he's willing to do whatever it takes to try to make it happen. And in the end, as we all know, he does end up getting the BB gun, but we kind of get an idea that it was, that basically it was his father that bought the BB gun. But it's indicated. Okay, let me explain. You see, because the movie is told from the perspective of a kid, but told from the kid as an adult, actually narrated by the author of the book that the Christmas Story is based on, it's what can I say? It's overall a great film. And again, when you watch the film, you kind of get hints that the parents are in that kind of in that mood, or in that part of that belief, if you will, of Santa, that they're looked at as his helpers, if you will. And basically, long story short, again, you know, Ralphie, the main character, played by Peter Billingsley, if you will, finally gets his Red Ryder BB gun, and the father basically, telling the wife, "Well, I had one when I was 8 years old," is basically letting the folks know that he's the one that bought the BB gun for Ralphie and made it look like it was from Santa. Because you also look at the clues of the father being like, "Hey, what's that over there?" and telling Ralphie to go look and open it up, and it's another gift. It's a gift that basically I think he wanted to wait to the very end, to when it looked like everything, all the gifts were open and accounted for. There was this one big last surprise, and of course it was the BB gun that Ralphie wanted. So overall, you kind of get the idea of, the parents are in that role of being, Santa's helpers. Because basically towards the end of the film, when Ralphie and Randy, his little brother, are going off to bed and you hear the door close, you see the father looking at the wife and going like, "Okay, let's go get him." Okay, because basically that's what you hear. You hear him go. You see the father look at the wife and say, "Okay, let's go get him," or "Let's go get him," or something like that, or "Let's get him." And what that means is, and that's basically code right there for them saying, "Okay, let's go get those gifts and put them out here." So to make it look like he arrived, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, basically besides that, it's a great story. It takes people on a journey through the perspective of a kid and how a kid, feels about certain things. And that was just my dog. She's sniffing around a little bit. But like I said, it just tells you the story of tells you the story from the perspective of a kid and what he would and what he is willing to do to get the present he wants for Christmas. Which is pretty cool. And it tells you through his perspective of doing, writing a theme based on what he wants for Christmas, having these fantasies, stuff like that. So overall, it's just a great overall Christmas classic that you have to see and re-see and rewatch and must watch every Christmas season, even when it's not Christmas. It's something to enjoy. Now, of course, the other one at number one, like I said, is of course It's a Wonderful Life. It is looked at as basically one of the definitive must-watch movies of the Christmas season. It's basically one of the movies that actually only has like a one or two time airing. Sorry about that. On television, maybe 3 times. In the past, it used to just be aired like twice a year on NBC, like the day after Thanksgiving and then the day before Christmas it would be aired. And now, USA Network's airing it like once or twice a year, and NBC airs it like only once, which is like a thing on Christmas Eve. So, yeah, it's one of those definitive classics that is in that category of not really being, put in the position that Christmas Story's put into, which is basically being oversaturized and just over promoted, with all these other things like musicals, unnecessary sequels, stuff like that, merchandise out the wazoo, if you know what I mean. So, so basically the one thing people could say about Wonderful Life is it's not suffering from that situation, and that it's one of those movies that is just a timeless classic that you have to, really thoroughly enjoy when it comes out. Now, here's the thing about me. Even though I don't watch it fully all the way through, I've seen it several times before as a kid when my mom would watch it on television. We would all be there watching it as kids, me, my sisters, my dad. So we would watch it, and we would watch it, so we pretty much knew what was going to happen, throughout the film. We've watched it so many times during the Christmas season or every Christmas, so we kind of had an idea what was going to happen. And so for someone like me, I don't have to watch it as much. It's like one of those films that if I feel like watching it, I will sit down and I will watch it. But there is one there is one moment though that always stuck with me as a kid, that when I saw it as a kid, I always found funny and enjoyed. And that was the scene when Donna Reed's character, Mary, I think that's her name, Mary, ends up hiding in the rose bushes, basically, it's basically the scene after basically everybody falls into the water, into the pool in the high school. Basically, the dance floor, the parquet floor, which has become a dance floor for the Christmas dance or whatever. It opens up, and everybody falls in. So what happens is, George, played by James Stewart, is escorting Mary home, and the singing, the "Come Out Tonight" tune or song, and they're talking about, and you get that scene where he says, I can give you the moon and stuff like that, and then and then you see this old guy just basically call them out about something, just saying, why don't you kiss her, whatever. And this is enough to where Mary gets so embarrassed that she runs off. George has his foot on her robe, and she runs off, and she runs out of the robe and into the rose bushes, if you will, or whatever they are. And she's just stuck in there until she can get her robe back. And again, the reason it stuck with me is because basically she's just in the bush, just shaking it, making it look like it's alive. Like I said before about when I talked about the Sabrina Skunks Day Out thing, and Sabrina Online and all that. When you had Stacy and Tracy, those two characters having their fun, if you know what I mean, in the bushes at the theme park, that they would pull people in, acting like a living, breathing bush or whatever. That's kind of what, that basically what they did there reminded me of what was going on with Donna Reed's character in this movie, because she was in the bushes and she was shaking them a lot of it, and George, he's about to give her robe, but then he's thinking, wait a minute, I'm gonna have a little fun here. And of course, it annoys Mary a little bit, annoys Donna Reed's character to the point that she's just shaking and all that. And there's like, one part, there's one line that he says, like about the robe, like, saying, hey, maybe I could sell tickets, for this or something like that. And then the bush is just like shaking up and down and going, almost like agreeing, like, yeah, you can. But it's just, Donna's character shaking, trying to, get George just to give her her robe and everything, and he eventually does. He does eventually give her the robe because he finds out that his father has fallen ill, so he has to go off and see what's going on. Overall, though, besides that being a moment that stuck with me, and I'm sure any child at the time that watched it when they would watch this movie when they were a kid. Besides that, it is a very Christmassy, very iconic Christmas movie. Now, as a lot of people have mentioned before when they've talked about this film, it didn't do so well in the box office. It actually, I think, I don't know, I think it came out did it come out in the spring or something like that, or the summer? I don't really remember, but it didn't do so well at the box office during the time of its release. But then afterwards, it created a cult following through its many rebroadcasts on television. I think maybe a few re-releases in theaters, and this became a phenomenon. And it's gone on to become one of the, if not the must-watch Christmas films of the Christmas season, along with Christmas Story. So yeah. Wonderful Life, along with Christmas Story, is one of the must-watch Christmas movies of the Christmas season, even on a rewatch perspective. So yeah, Wonderful Life, Christmas Story, you can't go wrong as those two being the number one must-watch and rewatched Christmas films of the Christmas season. So yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this video of the 5 must-watch Christmas movies of the Christmas season. I know some of you may disagree with some of them, like where I put them at and everything, and that's fine. You probably have your own list of where they should be ranked and what, movies should be in their place instead of certain ones being listed. But again, remember, this is just my list of the 5 must-watch Christmas films of the season, and even afterwards. which I definitely think you need to give a chance to. You need to watch them during this time of year, and even during the off Christmas season, like the spring and the summer and all that. If you want to get into sort of a Christmassy mood, to basically be like, you know what, I need to feel good right now. I need to feel better. I'm gonna watch this and be done with it. So yeah, those are the 5 must watch in my opinion. What are yours? Comment down below, and have a good Christmas Eve. Peace out.